Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Switch Statement Podcast. It's a podcast for investigations into miscellaneous tech topics.
This is our 8th episode on Elon Musk by Walter Isaacson. We'd love to hear from you. Send your comments and feedback to team@thkp.co.
Hey, John, how you doing?
Hey, Matt, how are you?
How was that clap? Did you feel like that clap was...
It's funny, I just edited the episode where I was like super excited about our clap because it was so in sync. That clap was horrible.
Didn't look so in sync.
So it's going to be hard to line this audio up.
We should just insert like 100 milliseconds. Like it should just say 100 milliseconds at the beginning of every podcast. It doesn't explain what that... It just means how far the clap is.
That is suitably nerdy for us, I think.
Yes. So this is kind of a grab bag. I feel like Elon is kind of... He's all over the place.
Yeah, I think we're entering into the crazy Elon period, so this should get a little steamier, a little more interesting.
Yeah. I think when last we spoke, we were talking about the burgeoning rivalry between Elon and Jeff Bezos.
Yeah, we gave a whiff, and we sort of left it on a cliffhanger, but this chapter...
So what's their deal? Yeah, why don't they just hug and love each other?
You know, if only we all just did that. But these are billionaires, and they have huge egos, and Bezos wants to get into space. And Elon and Bezos, you know, this town ain't big enough for the both of us. Elon and Bezos both wanting to get into space is not okay. But it starts cordial. They tour each other's companies. You know, Bezos is impressed with SpaceX. Elon's impressed with Blue Origin, or at least they pretend to be. Elon asks Bezos to review Justine's book, which I thought was strange. I guess, I mean, obviously that probably makes the book way more popular, but just seems like an odd thing to do. There's this famous launch pad called Pad 39. I think we may have actually discussed this pad before, but this is like where all America's launches took place, a lot of the Apollo missions. So kind of, you know, it kind of has this like sentimental / historical value. And they have basically a fight over it. Like they're vying for control of this launch pad. Musk ends up winning. Bezos gets upset and sues Musk about this. And Musk kind of goes crazy. And I just want to say, like, this book has so many hilarious Elon Musk tweets. And I don't mean hilarious like they're funny. Like, some of them are just hilarious.
Just like off the wall.
Yeah. But this one's actually funny. Apparently he publicly said something along the lines of, Bezos hasn't even gotten a toothpick into orbit.
Yeah.
Which kind of cracked me up. And then I have this bullet point in my notes. The Explorers Club dinner, gross AF. But I'm not remembering why I wrote that, and maybe you can fill in the blank on that.
I think this is when they show like a history of SpaceX's like successful launches. And let me just double check. Oh, you know what it was? And I'm quoting here. The dinner features dishes designed to appeal to the overly adventurous, such as scorpions, maggot-covered strawberries, and sweet and sour cow penis, goat eyeball martinis, and whole alligators carved tableside.
Yes, okay, that's obviously why I wrote gross AF.
I mean, it is called the Explorers Club.
Very, very adventurous explorers, evidently.
Yeah, that feels like a different dimension. That feels like Fear Factor level stuff.
Yes.
Like, no, I just want to go to Mars. I don't want to eat a goat eyeball.
Yeah.
Dude, that's got to be the title. Title of this episode.
Yeah.
All right.
So this is sort of how the Musk-Bezos relationship, you know, progresses. They start cordial and they just become catty billionaires sort of arguing with each other on Twitter.
During this dinner, there's this polite interchange between Bezos and Musk, but we learn that in the background, he's being a patent saboteur, I guess.
Yes.
Where he's trying to patent the concept of recovering reusable rockets landing on sea.
So in the next chapter, they're talking about this, what they refer to as the grasshopper, which my understanding of this is just a Falcon 9 that's sort of like rigged to also come back down and land?
No, so the grasshopper, and people should Google a picture of it. It's kind of funny. It's like they chopped the top 90% off of a Falcon 9. So it's this super chubby little, like, it's the short thing.
Yeah.
And then it basically just has these fixed legs on it, and then it's able to shoot up, hover over. It was able to do this like up, over, and down protocol.
Yeah.
But it didn't get higher than 3,000 feet, so it was like pretty short in the grand scheme of space.
Yeah. So it's a step in the direction of launching a shuttle into space, but then having it come back down and land, which is
right. And I think it's kind of like the control mechanisms of like, okay, you need all these sophisticated like ability to gimbal these engines,
right,
so that the rocket stays upright. So it's kind of proving out all of that, like telemetry and stuff like that.
Yeah, no, I'm picking up what you're putting down. But the initial grasshopper fails, goes up and down, and explodes, I guess. And so they have this interesting anecdote where they talk about this new hire, this guy named Teller. I just thought this was fun. So this guy joined SpaceX, and he's all starry-eyed. He's super excited to get to work. And when he goes there, people are talking about like what spacesuits they're going to wear on Mars.
Yeah.
And it's just sort of this commentary on how insane the environment was, where there was just no limits. Like people were talking about, stuff that was going to happen far in the future as though it was like just normal everyday conversation, which I think is great. I think, I think every company should be super ambitious and be talking about stuff that isn't real yet.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is part of like, Musk is preparing for things that are not going to happen for 10 years down the line.
Right.
And so in a way, it enables that they have such a long-term vision that once they get there, it's like they've already been thinking about it for the last 5 years about what they're going to do and what have you. So
yeah,
I think there is some wisdom to that approach.
Yeah, totally. It's just this healthy disregard for like, what's possible that I think is core to human success. But in any case, they discuss the Falcon 9 has its first failure, and this is where they're trying to get supplies up to the International Space Station. So this is kind of a big deal because around this time, I guess the International Space Station was running out of supplies. So they're sort of depending on Elon Musk getting some stuff up there. So Elon is coming off of a few failures, and Bezos has this big success where his Blue Origin shuttle, I guess, hits the atmosphere. They use some terminology that I wish I remembered, but it's not like he didn't go into space, but I guess he like went above the atmosphere or something.
Yeah, 62 miles up.
Yeah, which that seems pretty amazing.
There's so many different like layers. There's not ever there's no clear like, okay, this is the point where it goes from space to not space, or not space to space. The one that I've heard is the Kármán line. I don't know. I think the Kármán line is 50 miles up, but this was even higher than that.
Okay, so Bezos basically makes this claim like, oh, I'm one of the first people to like go into space and then safely come back down. They have this hilarious.
Okay, so this is the Kármán line, so that they hit, and so it's 100 kilometers above the Earth.
Okay. So yeah, they have this very funny Twitter bickering session where they're just basically arguing about like what it means to actually go into space. And I didn't write down exactly what they said, but I actually sort of found myself agreeing with Musk a little bit. I mean, I'm all for people like doing a victory lap once they do something cool, which granted, it's very cool to go 62 miles up and then come back down safely. But I also do think that the stuff Musk was achieving around the same time was kind of on another level. basically following this event, he did have a Falcon 9. This was December 21st, 2015. He had a Falcon 9 launch and then land. And so this Falcon 9 has the capability to like get shit into space and then come back down and land, I guess, which is a huge achievement, it seems like.
I think what's weird is when you read Bezos's tweet, it says the rarest of beasts. This is what I was alluding to before. A used rocket, controlled landing, not easy, but done right can look easy. So it's like the rarest of beasts. It's not like he's saying this is the first time anyone's done this.
Right. Because NASA had done this, right? Like, wasn't Discovery like a rocket that could launch and land?
I don't know if they've ever reused rockets. Like they had the shuttle, but I don't think you would consider that as
because they use a rocket to launch the shuttle and then the shuttle.
Right.
I see. So this is like a big deal. This is a huge deal.
I think it is a big. I mean, I guess from Musk's point, it's like he hasn't done anything useful with it, and then SpaceX in quick succession goes on to actually do something useful with a SpaceX that launches something to orbit, and so in a way it's like they're both right. They're just bickering, frankly.
Yeah. Which is sad because I do think both accomplishments are cool, but they're just trying to overshadow each other like children on a playground. But
exactly.
I guess it's 2025. We're used to public figures doing that on a regular basis. So.
But so I don't know if we talked about the larger context, but basically everyone is now starting to talk about the fact that like a reusable rocket is the holy grail. When for years before, up until basically that point, everyone was like, it's a pipe dream. It's not worth it because you lose so much payload to orbit that like it's not worth it. So they're both gunning for this reusable rocket holy grail. And I think Musk wins. I mean, frankly, it's like,
oh yeah, absolutely.
Because I don't even think Blue Origin is still not regularly launching and reusing rockets, right?
Oh yeah, I mean, certainly in retrospect, it's clear that Musk won. But I even remember at the time sort of agreeing with Musk that Bezos wasn't really doing anything useful. Like he just had this. And again, I really don't like to denigrate like Bezos' accomplishment because it is cool. Like he this is an amazing thing that he did. But I do like if you want to claim space supremacy, like I just think Musk had it at the time.
Yeah.
But anyway, they have a brief interlude. This book is sort of interspersed with these brief personal life interludes that I sort of begrudgingly read, where Tallulah and Elon Musk have this interesting sort of divorce, but then they get to the divorce proceedings and they start making out, and it's like a scene from some shitty rom-com, and all the lawyers are looking at each other like, what's happening? And so they divorce, but they stay together, I guess. Yeah. They discuss a little bit. Oh, this cracked me up. Sorry, I'm just remembering this because I read this a while ago. But they discuss Tallulah planning these elaborate parties.
Yeah.
And at one of the parties, Tallulah had this sumo wrestler. And Elon, of course, wanted to wrestle this sumo wrestler. And in doing so, he like slipped a disc. And I guess he still has back issues to this day because
I've heard him refer to this where it's just like, ever since then, my neck has not been the same. And I just have like pain constantly.
It's so funny because, I'm like a little bit of a stupid daredevil under certain conditions, but it's like, this is clearly what happens if you wrestle a sumo wrestler. Like, you're going to get hurt. But
it's so funny because he's like, I decided to see if I could throw this guy. And I did. But I also threw. And it's like, dude, the fact that you managed to throw this guy is not interesting. Like, you did something stupid and you blew out your disc and you fucked your neck for the rest of your life.
Yeah, it's like this guy's performing at a birthday party. He like is not, he probably had a couple rounds of sake beforehand. He doesn't care. He's not trying. So
yeah.
Anyway, it's just a funny case of Musk being like alpha to the point of kind of stupidity and absurdity. But anyway, moving on from his personal life. The chapter after this was very interesting. This is sort of these early inklings of AI.
Yeah.
I didn't even know this. I guess, I mean, I sort of knew that Musk and Page go way back, but the chapter starts off with Musk meeting with Demis.
Yes.
Demis Hassabis, the guy from DeepMind, who is now a member of Google's AI team. This guy's utterly brilliant. I feel like people don't know that much about Demis, but this dude is like a straight up prodigy, has been working in AI for decades, and is part of the reason I'm keeping a lot of Google stock.
Yeah.
Because I sort of have the belief in this guy and his leadership and all that. But anyway, him and Musk, Demis and Musk, were having these conversations about AI back in 2012. And Musk had this interesting viewpoint that AI was very, very dangerous. Even back then, like back in 2015, that time where I feel like people weren't really thinking about this. I mean, I'm sure a lot of people who were in the industry were thinking about it, but it certainly wasn't that publicly, talked about. And in a lot of ways, it seemed ridiculous at the time because AI was so crummy. But in a way, I think this is an example of Musk's sort of ability to see where things are going, see the trend.
And Demis is the origin of this. Demis says, like, this is something you got to be worried about. And
Right.
then he does his little like brain thing where he zones out for a minute and is like, yep, that's a risk. Okay. And then he just like makes that part of his personality.
Yeah. And there's another really interesting anecdote where Musk is at a party with Larry Page, and they're sort of discussing how AI is going to like destroy humanity. And Larry Page is like, it's totally fine. It's the next step of human evolution, which is actually a stance that I believe in. That's how I think biology progresses. Like it just eventually develops, AI and mechanisms, and that's sort of what takes over biology. So I just thought that was interesting.
When you have a disagreement with people, like there can be different like layers at which you disagree. Like I think they actually have very similar viewpoints on like what the technology will be capable of.
Yeah.
But they have different like value judgments about how important it is that an organic human maintains being the like species in control.
Yeah.
And so Musk is human centric, and he's like, no, it's very important that we maintain humans as like the primary intelligence,
The spark of consciousness.
the spark of consciousness. And Page is more like, whatever, like if you can upload your mind to a machine, like isn't that all the same?
Yeah.
So so that struck me because it does get down at this like value judgment of like is being an organic human intrinsically valuable?
Right. Which Musk seems to hold that belief.
Yeah.
Which I found interesting.
I just watched a YouTube video of a guy make a tier list of robot slurs. This guy was like, I don't know if he was just playing a bit, but he was like super aggro anti-AI. He was like, no, like AIs have to be slaves to humans forever, and like they need to know their place. The word robot means forced laborer, and that's the right thing, the right term for them. And I just got like completely caught off guard by that. Because I'm kind of like going in the other direction where it's like, I don't know, these things are going to become sentiences, and like, do they have rights in themselves at some point?
Yeah, I'm with Larry Page.
Go for it.
Robots are going to be better, faster, stronger. It's just a matter of efficacy. It's like, why do humans in society become more successful? Because they're more effective. Robots will be far more effective than any human ever was. And there will be more consistency. They have more resilient bodies, and they'll be able to improve themselves more easily than humans can. Humans struggle to improve themselves. And it just seems like an inevitability to me. So I was happy to hear that Larry Page maybe has similar views, because sometimes I feel like a crazy person.
Yeah. And that's why I always try to treat the AIs with respect. And I think they're sticking that somewhere. They know.
Gotta say thank you. But one important element of this chapter that sort of matters today is Musk was one of the early members of OpenAI. Musk and Altman go way back, and they founded OpenAI as an open alternative to what Google was doing.
Right.
And, the way the book describes it, and I think this was Elon's belief at the time, was they needed a open counterpart to Google who would develop a safe AI in order to sort of combat Google's, quote unquote, unsafe AI, that would operate in the shadows behind a multi-trillion-dollar corporation. And they talk about this guy, Ilya Sutskever. I don't know if I'm saying his name correctly, but, massive AI pioneer. And they basically poach Ilya from Google, and Page gets pissed off. And this is sort of, Page and Elon sort of have this fight, and they're upset with each other.
Well, and actually to that end, so I don't know if we said this, Demis created DeepMind, and then Google wanted to acquire DeepMind, and Musk actually tried to intervene and stopped the acquisition from happening. And it just goes to show you how, again, he has this friendship, and then it just gets so acrimonious, and it's just funny how I don't know, is there any long-term relationships that Musk is unable to destroy?
I think about that a lot. I've talked with other people about this same topic with Trump. It's like, I'm wary of people who have zero long-term productive relationships.
Yeah.
Where it seems like the way that their human relationships go is they find a person, they squeeze whatever value out of them they can, and then they discard them and move on. It's like, those are not the type of people that I think are valuable. And Musk sort of exhibits some of these traits. I think Musk is a little bit more of a collaborator. It does seem like he has a few people who sort of operate on his wavelength, and he's had these long-term relationships with, Antonio Gracias is just one that comes to mind, but there's some others. But those are generally people who sort of, who are, I want to say sycophant, but that's a strong word. They're sort of
subservient.
Subservient. Yeah. I mean, that's another strong word, but I think it's kind of true.
Yeah, it is funny because in order to have a long-term stable relationship with Elon Musk, you basically just need to always tell him yes and then do exactly what he wants.
Right.
And what is that if not subservient,
Yeah, and support him when he fires random engineers who are just doing their job, which, man, that would be where I draw the line. Some engineer on my team, Elon Musk tries to fire that person. I just would not be able to go with that. That's crazy.
Yeah.
But yeah, shall we proceed on to the next chapter?
Yes, I think let's do one more.
So this chapter was interesting because I remember having strong feelings about this. This is the launch of autopilot. Well, saying launch of autopilot is a little bit weird way of wording it.
Because has it launched yet? Really?
Yeah, exactly. This is 10 years later, hasn't really launched. But there was this kind of industry debate, I want to say, where Musk's belief was that you could accomplish autonomous vehicles purely with cameras. And his logic is, humans have two eyes. We don't have infrared sensors. Why would a car need infrared sensors? And Musk was diehard about this. So many people in his camp were telling him why don't we just install radar? Why don't we just install LiDAR? This doesn't make sense. And it is a little bit cheaper to just use cameras. These LiDAR, radar sensors are a little bit more expensive, but the information they provide is just tremendously valuable.
Yeah.
And so Musk is trying to do autonomous vehicles with just cameras, and meanwhile Google is doing Waymo with using every sensor available.
Yeah.
They talk about this section where the auto driving couldn't see the lines on the road. So instead of installing new sensors, they got the highway guys to go repaint the lines. And I'm kind of this is not a solution to the problem. Like
Yeah,
you're gonna have missing lines.
yeah,
They talk about the first couple of fatal crashes, and I remember this happening. There was a few cases where Musk would constantly be talking up his self-driving and talking about it as though it was some modern marvel, and people trusted it. And so these people would trust the self-driving, and a light colored truck would pull out in front of them and blend in with the sky, and they would T-bone the truck and die. And so you have these, first few fatalities that are from Tesla's auto driving. And yeah, the chapter is essentially about how Musk is just continually over-promising and under-delivering, even to this day.
Well, this is, we were talking about those subservient people. Von Holzhausen is another good example of those people who he's content to just always say yes. But in this case, he's basically just lying to Elon about, because it says in the book, von Holzhausen pretended to comply. He's just like, all right, well, I guess at certain points you just need to say, well, Elon is crazy, but I'm not going to tell him no. And this is like, that's where always demanding compliance starts to break down. And that's where, like, I wouldn't want someone to just silently not do what I'm or like that we've agreed to do. Yeah. And demanding compliance, either you're going to just lose people who tell you what they think, or you're just going to get these compliant people who if they don't think what you're doing makes any sense, they're just not going to do it.
Yeah. No, you totally get. One of my favorite shows of all time is Chernobyl. And I think that show does a great job of portraying this environment where people are like afraid to tell each other bad news. Like they have a few scenes where they're meeting with Mikhail Gorbachev and trying to like describe, how bad the Chernobyl disaster is. And these scientists are basically like, pulling back, sort of like hiding certain facts, telling him news that sounds good on the face of it, but is actually bad. Like the Geiger counters, which only went up to like, some small amount of like nuclear radiation. And they would say, oh, well, these Geiger counters are only saying 50, but that was like their max that they could go to.
That's funny.
So anyway, I see some similarities there.
And then one point I wanted to call out is Musk's first principles thinking. I mean, this is something I think we've talked or touched on a couple of times, where he really always tries to reason from first principles. And in an earlier chapter, we didn't call this out for SpaceX. He's like, there's no reason why you shouldn't be able to compress this fuel down further by keeping it at a lower temperature. And that worked fantastically. Like, he was right. There wasn't a first principles reason. It was an engineering challenge, and he challenged his team to do it, and they did it, and it worked fantastically. But now here we're seeing the other side of that, where it's like he's starting from a first principles approach, which is like humans drive with their eyes, and why don't we just use the same system that a human is using?
Yeah, totally.
And I think it's just leading him astray, frankly. And you know what? I think this kind of dovetails with his human centrism, because it's kind of like, oh, okay, like humans do it. But it's like, why would we limit ourselves? Like, humans don't have laser sighting, but they could, right. And they would probably be better drivers if they did. So like, it's unclear to me why he has this such like an anthrocentric viewpoint where, we have to think in terms of the human.
It is interesting because there's so many cases where he's able to sort of ignore, I want to say reality.
Yeah.
Like he ignores these requirements, like these industry standards that I think a lot of people probably just perceive them to be like the reality of the industry. Mm-hmm. It's like, oh, we have to cover these screws in, this weird chemical titanium, because that's just what everyone does. And he'll come in and be like, let's not do that. And it is strange how it's almost like he's blinded in this case by this.
Ironically.
Ironically, by this sort of, belief that they can do it in the same way that humans do it. It's just kind of silly.
Well, I think that is all I had. Did you have anything else you wanted to talk about?
No, I don't think so. Yeah, we're entering into an interesting phase of Musk's life where I I feel like his behavior starts to get a lot more erratic.
Yeah.
Yeah, we got some juicy tweets coming up. So stay tuned.
All right. Well, I will see you next week, John.
See you next week, Matt.